Welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, where we bring you conversations with the top business minds on Long Island and around the nation every week. Featuring expert consultants and small business owners who have found success but are also willing to share their top tips, failures, and give gritty, matter-of-fact advice based on their firsthand experience. Now, let's get down to business on Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hello and welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio. My name is Ray Schwetz, AVP of Business Banking at Jovia Financial Credit Union, along with Denisha Boston-Hill, CEO, keeper of the brand Marketing and Digital Agency, and we're focused on being the premier resource for business and entrepreneurship. Plus, we bring your weekly business advice, tips, tools, and services that help you grow your business. We interview the top business leaders in the industry, and I'm very excited because I have two very good friends here. Helping provide us with business empowerment today are a power couple. They're leaders in philanthropy, business, education, and diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. Kamille and Anthony William Dean. Tony is a seasoned realtor with Exit Realty Premier and founder of Pink Cans for Cancer, and Kamille is the Senior Director of D.E.I. at Fordham University School of Law. Welcome to the show today, Kamille and Tony.
Thank you for having us.
So I know you're a power couple. For those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
So I have the pleasure of being both a mom and a wife here on Long Island. But in addition to that, I have the pleasure of working with students who are going on to lead the next generation in law, in addition to serving my community through a number of organizations, including Pink Cans for Cancer. And I'm also a board member at Jovia Financial Credit Union.
And Tony?
I am a real estate agent and investor, one of the co-founders of Pink Cans for Cancer. I also bank at Jovia Credit Union. So that's a beautiful thing, Ray. Appreciate that.
As everyone should.
And proud husband and proud father.
Tony, let's talk about you as a realtor. There's a lot of people claiming to be real estate agents. How do you kind of set yourself apart in the pack?
I think I've been doing it longer than most people. I just turned 50 the other day, and so I've been licensed for 30 years, but I've also been doing real estate since I was 6 years old. So I would have mom, dad, and grandparents take me to open houses literally when I was 6 years old. So it's just been a passion of mine, and I'm blessed to be able to do what I love every day and help people, create the dream that everybody wants of home ownership.
So to be so young and interested in houses, was there somebody in your family who was interested in houses? Like, how did you develop that?
There was just a lot of new construction, and on my way to school, I'd pass it, and I'd beg mom and dad to take me on the way home, and I was just always fascinated by the structures and the spacing and the design, and then we'd go back again and again and could see the different things, and I'm like, why didn't they put the door here? Why didn't they do that? And I'm thinking in my mind, even at 6 and 7 years old, there was a better way to put the layout, and then being in Long Island, there's the dream of home ownership is not accessible for everybody. So to be able to help all kinds of different people achieve that dream, it's a beautiful thing.
So who's your ideal client?
Well, we love helping first-time homebuyers, and we have a very strong team, so we're able to do that. We also help a lot of investors. So we believe that most people want to be an investor. Most people do not want to be a landlord. So we help bridge that gap. We help them buy their first investment property, their 10th investment property. We run it for them and make them a ton of money.
Kamille, you've been at the forefront of diversity, equity, inclusion since before the pandemic, dating back even before 2018. So can you share with us a story about how you kind of got into that field?
Yeah, so I started off as a law professor. I worked in the area of business law, and what I began to see were economic disparities based on demographics, based on zip code. And I decided that I wanted to focus my scholarly research on those issues to particularly identify solutions and ways that we can equip students to be advocates. And through that work, I found my way to a wonderful organization here on Long Island named Erase Racism. They were doing a lot of work at the time with housing, particularly fair housing on Long Island. And what I learned through volunteering and eventually joining the organization as their staff attorney is that we, even today, have so many disparities based on demographics such as race, ethnicity, country of origin, gender, etc. And I realized that oftentimes those factors were determinants of health, education level, etc. And so I decided I wanted to be part of the solution. And one way to do that was to step into a role to provide access and opportunity to those who are marginalized.
There's a lot of misconceptions about DEI. I think there's a lot of companies, we had a pause with the pandemic, and I think a lot of companies have their heart in the right place and they want to do the right thing. And it's just, I'm not sure they're finding the right path necessarily. So what are those misconceptions and what can we do about them?
Certainly. So, a big part of the explosion of the field came after the murder of George Floyd in 2020. And so we saw a lot of corporations and other institutions really focus on this issue. And what we saw was a tremendous coming together of not only people, but resources. And so it provided a platform for individuals to not only step forward into a professional role to lead these efforts, but also what do we do with that energy? How do we move the needle forward? And so it's an evolving field, and it's something that with the changing times and changing demographics in this country, we are having to pivot in ways we haven't seen before. And the evidence is clear that diversity makes good business sense. In addition to being more inclusive and having accessibility to all, we are seeing businesses who are able to capture just better revenue, quite frankly, better talent in order to grow profits when they can figure out how to do diversity right. And so this field is filled with experts who have that experience and can bring that knowledge forward to the economic community. And it's a matter of making sure that we stay focused on how to be more inclusive of communities that have traditionally been shut out. And again, that's purchasing power. And so a big part of this is making sure not only do we understand the moral case for diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we clearly understand that there is a business case for it as well.
Yeah, I think that should be a huge motivator for businesses. And also, and obviously it's a common denominator for the two of you, Tony in his work with housing and you in your work in diversity, equity, and inclusion in other facets as well. One of the things I also notice is with regards to health care. Blacks are statistically more likely to develop cancer. I feel like the information is not getting to where it needs to go. Diversity, equity, inclusion is helping that change, and I think that is huge. And is that something that's really informing Pink Hands for Cancer?
Certainly. So social determinants of health, were around way before 2020 when diversity really became a focal point. But what we are seeing now is that health disparities are breaking down by zip code, by race, and oftentimes we can attribute it to things such as environmental racism. We can attribute it to things such as access to health insurance. And so a big part of what we do for Cancer is to make sure that costs that are outside of insurance are covered. We are very focused on quality of life and making sure that not only are we building awareness about the fact that even young people can develop cancer, particularly women of color. And there is a form of breast cancer called triple negative that is more aggressive and impacts women earlier in their lifespan if you are a woman of color. And so these are all areas that we are seeking to make sure that the community has knowledge, but also access to resources to ensure that they get those health checkups, but also have the support that they need if they are going through and thriving through cancer.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ray Schwetz, along with our guests today, Kamille and Tony Dean, with Pink Cans for Cancer. Can you tell us a little bit about how Pink Cans for Cancer got started? I mean, there's a lot of organizations that are dedicated towards eradicating cancer, but there's something different about Pink Cans for Cancer. Can you talk about how you started and what those differentiators are?
Sure. So my partner, myself, and also a good friend of ours, Joe. So Robbie and I were doing breast cancer rides for the YSC for years. We raised almost $1 million in 10 years. We were up to a 40-person team, and we were just riding our bikes once a year, 200 miles, not training, and just raising a ton of money and just helping young women with breast cancer. And then there was a time in our office where there was 3 of us, and one of our partner's mother was in hospice, and one of our partner's mothers were in chemo. And, Robbie, my real estate partner, my buddy for life, we don't always get along. We argue a lot when it comes to real estate and life and everything. But when it comes to cancer, we're just in lockstep. So I slid the window open, and I said, let's start Pink Cans for Cancer. I've always been a big recycler. I've always felt it was something important. I've always believed in protecting the environment. So when I slid the window open, I said to Robbie, I said, let's do Cans for Cancer and just get everybody. We'll get these big pink receptacles and we'll get everybody involved. And it sounded a little crazy, but he's like, cool, let's do it. And literally within 15 minutes, he made a website, and it was crazy in the beginning. People were dropping off canned food and water bottles full of water. And there was a little bit of disconnect in the beginning, but it just really took off. So the first car wash we had, we were picking up once a month. People were pulling up, and they were like, oh my gosh, I have 3 bottles in the back of my car. This is great. I hate cancer, and I want to recycle. So they were giving us 1, 2, 10 bottles. Then when something clicked, and they were like, wait a minute. And they started bringing bottles from their home. So the next time they went to the car wash, they had 3 bags of bottles. So we went from a once-a-month pickup to once-a-week pickup, and now we pick up from the car wash in East Meadows, Stop and Shine. They're amazing, and we pick up there twice a week. So people have really gotten on board. It's a hard argument, like who doesn't want to save the planet? I don't care who you voted for. I don't care if you believe in global warming or not. No one can think it's a good idea to take a water bottle and put it into a landfill. And again, we don't care who you voted for. We don't care what your stance is. There's no one that hasn't been touched by cancer. Mm-hmm. So if you can help save the planet and help people with cancer at the same time, it's a no-brainer. And
everyone could do it. I think a big part of it was making sure that even children can get involved. So many people feel that, yes, I want to give support and donate to a charity, but I'm not a philanthropist because I don't necessarily have the monetary resources to donate money. But everyone can donate trash. And we say, we'll take your trash for cash. And those, recycling bottles, 5 cents at a time, really do add up. And it's a way that families can get involved, schools can get involved, everyone can do it.
I love it. That is a common misconception. A lot of folks, I want to be charitable, but I just don't have the means. Everyone uses products that are recyclable, and there's really no excuse. Everyone can do it. So I love that. We've even found that, in the more affluent communities where they can write a check, they were happy to have their children get involved in the process of physically getting their hands dirty or setting up a program. Instead of them just collecting at their house, now they were doing it for the whole neighborhood. And people were getting involved in ways that beyond our means. So we'll pull up to the office and there's 10 bags sitting out front. We have no idea who they came from. So it's just, through social media, it's been growing through amazing people like yourself that are putting us out there on the radio. It's been growing, and it's not quite organic yet, but it's getting pretty close. I would say so. And you certainly have a lot of very powerful speakers. I was privileged to be at an event recently, and I want to talk a little bit about Lisa and her story. So I believe Kamille was the person who introduced, as many great ideas are for us, Tony, They're introduced by the spouse.
Of course.
And if we don't listen, we're not benefiting. So, Kamille, can you talk with us about how Lisa came into play?
Absolutely. And so I was just blown away in meeting Lisa for the first time through Cornell University's Industrial School of Labor Relations. She is the founder and executive that put together a certification program, probably the top certification program in the DEI field, to ensure that we have competent folks who are in this area. She is a powerhouse, not only, one of the trailblazers and leaders in the DEI space, but when I found out that she had a personal experience with cancer and her personal narrative was so strong, that authenticity just jumped out at me, and I said, I have to ask. So I was literally her student sitting in class, just mesmerized by, the way that she was able to bring very tough concepts to an understanding for us to really grasp the need to do something, whether that's in the DEI space or healthcare. And I approached her during the break, and I simply said, here's something that my husband and I do. We have a fundraiser coming up. I think you would make a wonderful keynote speaker. And she's like, okay, so what do I have to do? I was like, oh, don't worry about it. We had the Super Bowl MVP do the keynote last year, but, you will be great because you actually, have been impacted directly. And I think that you would be a phenomenal speaker. I gave her a few websites to look at, and within 24 hours, she was on board. She was very enthusiastic about the mission. She was very much interested in how she could help. And even more so, she said, not only am I going to speak, I want to actually participate in the day. And so she came out to Pine Hollow, where we were holding our annual golf charity event, and pulled out the golf clubs and really, got involved and met a lot of our donors and other supporters and, in fact, other survivors. And it was just an amazing night. But she shined because this was the first kind of official speaking engagement she did for the health equity space. And I really hope that it was a platform and a launch pad for her to do this more often.
Yeah, I would agree. She was extremely powerful. I was privileged to see her. I also saw the MVP speak. Both of them impactful for different reasons. But what really resonated with me was Lisa's vulnerability, Lisa's story. It really does. There's so many lessons to be learned from her experience, and I think it's very important that she continues and that others also have the courage to speak from that personal space, because that's what really inspires folks. And honestly, there are a couple of terms that I wasn't even aware of. I'm a cancer survivor myself, and I never really heard the term previvor, which is extremely important. And it's something you don't want to be ignorant about, because that's all about the genetics, and that affects everyone. And folks who are potentially, have that in their genetics, they need to be checked constantly. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of other impactful stories from the work that you both do with Pink Cancer and within the DEI space. Is there any that you could share with us about how some of your work has helped make a change?
Well, there's a couple things we do. One of our big focuses is not being big. So if Ray told me that his next door neighbor needed help, we wanted to make sure that we can go out and help Ray's next door neighbor. You don't have to go to a background check. You don't have to do anything. We're about helping different people in different ways. As crazy as it sounds, we've sponsored 3-dimensional nipples, which are not a part of the reconstructive surgery when people have had their breasts removed. And I remember the first person we did it for, she just said she felt whole again for the first time. I remember that one time someone passed away. Everybody was crying and sad, and don't get me wrong, I'm a crier, but we went into straight, I don't know if they have enough money for this funeral. And so we were able to step in financially and provide a check to help pay for the funeral. which we all know is not cheap. And if you've lost, your life to cancer, and I hate when people say lost their battle, because I don't feel like they lost their battle, kind of like Stuart Scott said. When they've passed on the baton to the next person and they're no longer with us, it's a very expensive process to bury someone, and sometimes they're not able to afford that. And then something as small as providing a meal. So if someone in your family is going through cancer, whether it's the mother or the father, and now one is also a caregiver now, right? And so making dinner for 2 kids where your wife is in the hospital going through chemo or just had her breast removed, the last thing they should have to focus on is cooking a meal. So we do meals for 7 days, and I'm an overeater. I'm an over-orderer. My wife will tell you that I over-order, so we just over-order and send a bunch of food to the house. And they can freeze it, they can do whatever they need to do, but they don't have to focus on cooking for that week. And we've gotten more feedback about that than anything, really. It's wild. People are really just so appreciative of the meals coming, and just them actually being able to take a nap or not having to cook and clean the dishes. So all these 5-cent bottles really go a long way, as my wife was saying, and they make a powerful impact. 5 cents at a time. We're helping thousands of people in Long Island that are battling with this awful disease. So do we want the cure? I mean, who doesn't want the cure? But we're advocacy, and, as we always say, we turn your trash into cash, and we're just trying to help folks.
And I love that. And it's so important to do what you're doing, because those are the things that are not covered by American Cancer Society, for other organizations that are larger like that. It is really truly in our backyard, and you're making a difference at that level, which is just incredible. And those things aren't things that people should have to think of.
Even during COVID, which you kind of forget, like, it was a crazy time, but for whatever reason, we had access to masks, and we had thousands and thousands of masks, and we just drove around to, we went to Sloan Kettering, left 1,000 there. They were super appreciative. And then we just went around and gave them to survivors. A lot of people in the real estate field, and we were just driving around handing out masks, and they were just so appreciative because they were very much afraid during COVID, because their bodies were already attacked. So little things like that, things I've forgotten, and things that we're open-minded to new opportunities and new places. We're in Jones Beach Amphitheater. We take 65, 70,000 cans every summer.
Wow.
From that, those cans are no longer going into the ground, and those cans are going to help people. We're in churches. We are in schools. We're in businesses. We're in homes. We're in car washes. And, the world wants to say none of us get along and we're all battling. Well, that's not true. There is a lot of camaraderie when it comes to this, and the support we've had, even from, someone like Ray, who I've been, what are we, 15 years friends? I've known Ray longer than I know Cam. So it's wild, but we're trying to, we're just trying to make an impactful change.
And I must say, we included merch.
Yes.
We've had
have to talk about that.
Yeah, some phenomenal collaborations with fashion leaders. Boy Meets Girl. We've had partnerships with Johnny Cupcakes. And what we have seen through the power of fashion is that there is an intersection where we can really build, again, that awareness, but also concentrate resources so that we can get those funds to people in need. And Long Island is a hotbed for cancer. We have seen upticks not only recently, but historically on Long Island. And so making sure that we're not only, small enough that you can get through to get help, but also local is important. And we also provide things like Uber rides, right? If you're getting to and from treatment, that's not covered, and you can't drive, and, perhaps a caregiver is not able to do so either. And so this is an opportunity that we can say that's covered. That is something that we can support. So every dollar counts, and making sure that you check out our website, Pink Cans for Cancer with the number 4. You can find our merch and also drop-off locations.
And how do folks become involved? What ways are you looking for involvement?
The main thing we're obviously looking for, as we say, we turn trash into cash, is cans. we're looking for organizations to get involved, get one of the large pink receptacles, and help us with this mission. You know, if you want to write us a check, Ray, we're not going to say no. You know, if you want to go on the website and support our merch, Boy Meets Girl, or our other Pink Cancer lines, obviously that's an amazing thing. But just really getting involved, whether you're a student, whether you're a parent, whether you're the CEO, or whether you're the janitor, just really, really getting involved with the product and the cans. I try to travel in what I call, whenever I'm traveling, I wear conversational pieces. So it drives my wife crazy, but I wear sweatshirts every day. You know, part for Trayvon Martin. We can never forget that particular situation. So it's my way of honoring him. But also, I wear conversational pieces that people are like, oh, what's Let's Trash Cancer? Oh, what's Motel Luzerne? Oh, what's Real Estate A-Team? So if people are out there wearing the merchandise, people are going to ask them and want to get involved. This particular piece I'm wearing is at letstrashcancer.org. It's just a matter of growing the brand.
And also, local businesses can support or sponsor one of the pink receptacles that, you know, it's a big pink plastic garbage can, essentially, but it's branded with the business name. And it's a way for particularly new businesses or emerging businesses to say, not only are we a drop-off point, but also signal to your customers that you care about the environment and that you're giving back to the community. So it's a twofold benefit. And we encourage more businesses, particularly small businesses on Long Island, to sponsor a can and designate themselves as a collection site.
And I would say, me as a shopper, I look for those signs. I look for the business to care about things like the environment and things about what I'm going through. So I think that's very important. So again, before we close, please give us the website address where people can find you.
Well, Ray, first of all, thank you for your time. We appreciate you. And we are at pinkcansforcancer.org. And we're also at letstrashcancer.org.
Yes, and let's trash cancer. I love that. So I want to leave you with DB's philosophy for now. Hope is like the sun, which, as we journey towards it, casts the shadow of our burden behind us. Samuel smiles. Tony, Kamille, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Ray.
I want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Dinesh Boston Hill, your co-host and producers. Visit nccradio.org for more information. We are available on Odyssey, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.